Have you ever had a gut feeling about something? Well, it turns out that might be more than just a saying. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting frontiers in science, the powerful, kind of mysterious connection between the trillions of tiny microbes in your gut and the actual thoughts and feelings you have in your brain. Let's get into it. It sounds a little like science fiction, doesn't it? But seriously, what if your feelings of anxiety, your stress levels, even your overall mood, what if they weren't just coming from your head, but from deep inside your gut? That's the huge question we're going to explore. Okay, first things first. Before we can even get into how the gut and brain talk to each other, we have to appreciate the sheer scale of the world that is living inside you. It's not just the digestive system. Think of it more like a bustling metropolis. Check out this number, 100 trillion. That's how many microorganisms are living in your gastrointestinal tract right now. To put that into perspective, they outnumber our own human cells by more than 10 to 1. So, and this is wild, you are technically more microbe than you are human. And it's not just about how many there are, it's about genetic power. Altogether, these tiny organisms contain 150 times more genes than our entire human genome. It is a biological powerhouse so vast and complex that scientists have actually nicknamed it our forgotten organ. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's get the terminology straight. The scientific name for this whole community, all those bacteria, fungi, and viruses, is the microbiota. Just think of it as the complete population of your inner world, and it's the community we're going to be focusing on. Okay, so we've established we have this massive colony of microbes inside us. But how on earth could they possibly have a conversation with the command center of our body, the brain? It seems impossible, but science is showing us it's happening constantly. Yeah, this isn't a monologue. It is a full-on dialogue. We've all felt those butterflies in our stomach when we're nervous, right? That's your brain talking to your gut. But what researchers are proving now is that the gut talks right back, and it can actually influence how our brain works. So how does this conversation happen? Well, you can think of it like having 3 different messenger services. First, there's the direct physical wire, called the vagus nerve. Then you've got an immune system postal service sending these little chemical letters called cytokines. And finally, there's a hormonal broadcast system that uses things like the stress hormone cortisol. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but how did scientists actually prove it was happening? Well, they turned to a really fascinating and pretty extreme experimental model, animals that have never, ever encountered a single microbe. By raising mice in basically a completely sterile bubble, scientists were able to create the ultimate control group. With absolutely no microbiota, they could finally see what role these microbes truly play in how the brain develops and how it affects behavior. And the results were stunning. Without any gut bacteria, the mice had this really exaggerated hormonal response to stress. But here's the twist. They also showed less anxiety-like behavior, almost as if their brains had never learned the proper settings for caution. Their brain chemistry was just fundamentally different. It was this brilliant illustration that the microbiota doesn't just influence the brain, it actively helps build it and calibrate it right from the ground up. And get this. Timing is everything. The research showed that this whole colonization process by microbes has to happen early in life to properly program the stress system and the brain for the rest of the animal's life. It's a foundational step, and it has to happen at the right time. So if the presence or absence of microbes can change the brain, it raises a really tantalizing question, right? Can we actively change our microbes to purposefully change how we think and feel? Let's take a look at how scientists are putting that to the test. You know, scientists have a whole toolkit for this. They can introduce beneficial bacteria. You can think of them as bacterial tourists through probiotics. They can wipe out bacteria with antibiotics, or they can study what happens during infections to see how the whole system responds to invaders. So one of the most promising tools in this kit is the probiotic. And I'm not just talking about the yogurt you might have had for breakfast. In a scientific context, a probiotic is a very carefully selected living microorganism that, when you ingest it in the right amounts, can provide a specific health benefit. And researchers are now asking if those benefits can extend all the way to our mental health. Okay, now this is a landmark finding. You gotta hear this. Scientists gave mice a specific probiotic strain, and they saw that it significantly reduced their anxiety and depression-like behaviors. I mean, that alone is pretty amazing. But here's the clincher. When they surgically cut the vagus nerve, that direct physical wire connecting the gut and brain, The mood-altering effects of the probiotic completely vanished. This was the smoking gun. It was the first definitive proof of a direct neural pathway that gut bacteria use to speak to the brain. So this research isn't just about understanding mice in a lab. This opens up a whole new paradigm for how we think about human health, about mental illness, and really the future of treatment itself. The implications here are just massive. Researchers are now finding links between the gut microbiota and a huge range of conditions that involve the central nervous system, everything from visceral pain in IBS to neurodevelopmental disorders like autism and even autoimmune diseases like multiple sclerosis. All of this research really points to one incredible conclusion. We are on the cusp of a revolution in medicine, one where we might actually treat the mind by treating the gut. It really makes you wonder, in the not-so-distant future, will your next antidepressant be a yogurt? Could managing your mental health be as simple as changing your diet? Now that is a thought worth digesting.